Welcome to Inspired Changemakers, a podcast about all the amazing things people are doing to make the world a better place. This podcast is about creating change and the moments that inspired our guests to activate. My name is Julia Healy, and I'm the CEO of United Charitable. Stay tuned to be inspired. All right, well, Rachel and Knox, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. Here at Inspired Changemakers, what we do is we highlight people that are really making a difference in the community. And I know I met you a couple of years ago through Bernard, and I knew that you guys had to be on this podcast because I love what you're doing. So with that, Knox Singleton, after 35 years of working as the CEO of Inova Health, not a stressful job at all, Inova Health System, you technically retired, but continue to serve people in a variety of ways. You were named CEO of the Year both by Virginia Business and the Washington Business Journal, and you co-founded Opportunity Scholars. Awesome.
Thank you.
And then Rachel Schaefer, you are the Chief Executive Officer of Opportunity Scholars, and you really began in continuing education, and you've worked as an adjunct for Laurel Ridge over 2 decades, and your experience really has focused on sales, marketing, education, and nonprofit healthcare.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you guys for coming today. I'm so interested because I think what you guys do is absolutely amazing. So let's start with, what made you found this organization?
Well, Julia, thank you, first of all, for having us today. We really are very grateful for the opportunity to share the story of Opportunity Scholars with others who would be interested in what we're trying to do. Well, I think you probably know that there really are 2 big problems in our society today. One is that businesses and organizations of all kinds are in severe shortage status with respect to the skilled workers that they need. My background's in healthcare, and just about every healthcare profession of nurses or x-ray techs or pharmacists are greatly in short supply. But it's also true of our schools, it's of our construction companies, of our manufacturers, of our software developers, just really every business you name. The number one issue is we can't access the kind of workforce that we need to grow and maintain our business. And that then hurts the communities that they're in, because tax base and all the other services that come out of a prosperous business. The second problem is that we have an opportunity imbalance in this society. We're primarily today operative in Opportunity Scholars is in Virginia, and about half of all the kids that leave our high schools every year don't get any additional education beyond a basic high school degree. They don't go in the military, they don't take apprenticeships, they don't go to community college or a 4-year school. And that means that they are not going to be able to fill those jobs that those employers need. And perhaps more important, it really is going to consign them to a life of unskilled labor and very poor economic prospects. And out of that realization that, well, what if we could help the tens of thousands of kids in Virginia alone that are not getting the skills that bring them into the middle class and then the upper middle class and have a good life? What if we could help them achieve that? It would then help our small businesses and large businesses, or schools, or hospitals, or all the different folks who are desperate for skilled workers. And out of that came Opportunity Scholars. And we said, this is a wonderful opportunity to provide opportunity to young people, the vast majority of whom want the skills, they want the opportunity, but they think, oh, I don't have the resources, or I can't afford that, or people that maybe look like me, I haven't seen them as accountants or cybersecurity techs or data center techs. Well, that's what we're trying to change, is help them know they can do it. we can help them succeed. And we start with them in school, their last year of school, and we carry them all the way through till they get a good job. And we define a good job as at least $50,000 or more to start, and all of our careers lead to that starting point. So that's really the origin, that we see that as a great opportunity by bringing opportunity to folks who desperately want it and can use it.
Oh my God, amazing. And Rachel, tell me a little bit about the program and how you actually fulfill that dream.
Absolutely. So we find kids primarily in high schools, but we also find them anywhere that we can. So we could go into churches, boys and girls clubs. We work with businesses. And so wherever we find those kids, we help them understand that pathway that Knox talks about to a greater life. We have coaches that provide them coaching every single month from the time we find them all the way through their first 6 months of employment. So when we find them, we'll help them understand what would be best for them in their current situation. So is it going to be career and technical education, 2-year education, 4-year education? Do they need to do something direct to employment? And from there, we'll make sure that they get that education. One of the pillars of our program is that if a person wants to be, Knox mentioned an accountant, for example. If the person wants to be an accountant, we try to have them work for a place that is ultimately going to hire accountants, because then they learn the terminology and the culture. So we work with them, coaching them every single month through the time that they are getting all of their education. And then at the end of that, we help them find a job. And we have partnerships with some businesses to be able to slot them into jobs. And they can go to work wherever they want. But it's also really important for us to be able to have partnerships with businesses that allow us to send students there so they can get that $50,000 a year that Knox talked about. And we provide them not only the education, you'd mentioned Laurel Ridge, through a community college there, or Nova, or through some of our 4-year partners for the last 2 years of their education, being GMU or Shenandoah University. And we provide them not only that bit of education, but we also provide them training when it comes to, some people call it durable skills, life skills, all different terminology for those. So a lot of our kids are first generation. Their parents want to help them, but they don't know how.
Right.
And so we work with the students and the families, being able to help them overcome challenges that they have, so that we have people who graduate out the other end and transform their life for the better. We want them never to have to use social services again for any of their financial needs, because they have the education that has created a complete different change for them.
And so tell me a little bit about what I found interesting about the program is that once you graduate, do you pay back into the program, or how does that work?
Yes, you do pay back into the program after you graduate. So we will pay for their upfront education cost.
Yeah.
And then they pay us back at the end of that particular program. But we also work mightily to try to get them free or reduced cost education wherever we can. So we tap into all those scholarships or anything else that we can tap into to get them the least cost education. We work with low and middle income families, and we follow the guidelines that the community college uses to be able to get those reduced cost or free education for our guidelines for the program as well.
What I think is so interesting about that is that you're creating a community, right?
Yes.
And you're creating the mentality of paying it back, and how do we pay it forward, and how do we continue to give back to our community so nobody else is in this situation again. And that's one of the things I love about the pillars. Mm-hmm. So tell me about the, also too, what I thought was interesting is that it's just not one trade. Right? So can you give me the plethora of skilled workers and maybe a success story?
Sure, absolutely. So the majority of our students choose either career and technical, so that's plumbing, electrical, HVAC, those types of things, and 2-year education, which would be an RN degree, for example, a registered nurse degree. So we have all of those career and technical education. We have 2-year path, and then we have 4-year path. If I think about the education that we support in big buckets, again, it's education that you can get in 4 years or less that'll make at least $50,000. And in the big areas, it's going to be IT, career in technical, nursing, accounting. I think those are the biggest ones.
Love the accounting.
Yes.
I would love to have more accountants in the world.
Yes,
It's actually dying. It's not as many people are becoming accountants now.
Yes. Yeah. And speaking of accounting, we also do teaching as well. So you can be an accountant teacher all together, but we do teaching. We do teaching as well. We support that career pathway.
Oh, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And what is a success story that you really feel shows the example of what Opportunity Scholars can do?
Yes. We actually just had an entire family in our office. We are preparing for our annual report for 2023. And this family actually has 3 kids that are in the Opportunity Scholars program. And one of them has just completed her 2-year degree, and she's going to be, or will be completing her 2-year degree in a couple months, and she'll be going to Shenandoah University, and she wants to be a teacher. They also have a son who is doing welding, and we're in the process of helping him find a welding job while he gets his education.
Amazing.
And then they have another child who is in the 11th grade who wants to be a nurse. And so we've been working with that family. Here's what I love about their story. When we first found them, the kids wanted to get an education, but they had no idea how they were going to be able to fund it. They had no idea how to fill out the paperwork. There was fear in filling out the paperwork. There was fear in asking questions. The family is first generation going to college, and the parents, English is not their first language, and so we have folks on our team that are bilingual that can help walk them through the entire process. The father of the family decided years ago that he really wanted to help his family, but again, didn't know how. And he's a landscaper. And so he bought a vehicle that his kids could sit in to watch him do landscaping because they couldn't afford a babysitter. And when their oldest child turned 16 years old, she opened up the car door and she said, "Dad, I want to come out and help you now." And so she started doing landscaping. It gives me chill bumps just to think about it. She started doing landscaping with her father. And now she talks about how she wants to be a teacher because she wants to be able to empower other kids to get an education so that their families don't have to leave them sitting in a car while the father is working. And she always says she wants to send every one of the kids to Opportunity Scholars. She wants to be an ESL teacher. And so we're really proud of what she is doing. We're really proud of the success that she has made. Yeah. And she has become, a student. She wasn't even a student, so now she's a student making a great GPA on a path to a better future. And she's impacted her other 2 siblings, and my goodness, the parents as well.
I'd like to thank United Charitable for sponsoring today's Inspired Changemakers podcast. United Charitable is a national nonprofit that focuses on guiding you on your charitable journey. Whether you like to simply streamline your giving or you like to create your own charitable initiative, United Charitable has the knowledge and resources to support you. If you'd like to learn more, check out the link in our bio. So tell me what drew you to this cause. Like, why is this your thing?
Mm-hmm. I was working in a healthcare system, and Knox came to that healthcare system and talked to us about Opportunity Scholars. And not too long after that, I said to my husband, I really think I really like Opportunity Scholars. And the reason is because I was a kid who could have been a scholar. For a period of time in my life, we lived in an RV or a Winnebago before living in an RV was cool. Now it's cool to live in one of those small homes. Let me tell you, it was not cool. Nor did we have hookups for running water, so we had to go to a fill station to fill, for the water and to let the waste out and things like that. And it was difficult. And my father finished his education in the 8th grade until he was later in life. Then he took a couple of classes here and there, but he really finished his education in the 8th grade. And I know what education can do for people.
Right.
I was the kid who said to myself, "Oh, you've made it if you have a garage." And now I have a garage, and it is because I got an education and I kept trudging forward. And I know that this can work for other kids. And so that's why I'm here.
And what got you on the path to education?
What got me on the path to education?
So when you were younger, you were saying the situation, like, was there a mentor? Was there somebody special in your life that kind of pushed you in that direction?
There was. Her name was Brenda Byard, actually. She was, I don't know if Knox knows that. Knox knows Brenda. But she was one of my teachers in school. And I joined a group called FBLA, Future Business Leaders of America.
Okay.
And she said to me, I really think that you should get an education. And I followed her advice and got an education. And had it not been for her, I would not be sitting at the place I am today.
That's amazing. And how about you, Knox? Why is this your cause?
I think I spent most of my career in healthcare, and I think where you sit is kind of where you stand in things. I saw the power that healthcare had. If you can restore someone to health, it can give them a whole new life. Maybe they couldn't work, and now they can work, or it can be life-threatening, other things. But what I came to appreciate, in part because I became associated with Shenandoah University, was the power that education, and there's really nothing like the transformational power of education, particularly if it's combined with an application plan. As one of the things that Rachel mentioned was, when we help our kids get a job in the area that they feel like they want to work, and for two reasons. One is that they sometimes look and say, well, geez, I never knew that accountants did this.
Right.
I don't think that's for me. And then the other piece is, once they see what the accountant, if they're working as a clerical assistant,
Yeah.
they see the accountant's job, and they say, that is a cool job. And then suddenly their level of motivation and commitment and perseverance just goes out the roof. So when you put those two things together, it's a dramatic, transformational thing, and it's so satisfying, and there's so much joy in seeing. When Rachel tells the story, it's almost as powerful as when you actually meet the families, because you're blown away that you're giving their kids a new life, and so I guess it's a heart and head thing for me.
Growing up, my mom's a teacher. So I grew up in Jersey, and my mom is a high school teacher. And I did not realize that everybody didn't have what I had. Like, my mom mapped out my week. Here's when your homework's due. Here's when your essays are due. Here's when your tests are. Like, this is how you prepare for school. This is how you study. And it wasn't until much later in life that I realized that not everybody had that path.
That's right.
And that was really hard for me. Like, my husband grew up in Sterling, in the Sugar Land area. I don't know if you know that at all.
Mm-hmm.
But so education was not his path. And it was really, and I was like, what do you mean your mom didn't have like blocked out time on your calendar for when you had to study? So you just knew what to do. Like, so when I went to college, it was very easy for me to just take the same skills that my mom taught me in high school, how to map out, how do you write your essays, how do you do all these things. And so that's why I think, and I always thought I was going to be a teacher. And that was my calling, and that's what I thought I was going to do. I was going to be a math teacher because I think math is the most, amazing subject. And ended up at American University, and I took an accounting class and fell in love, and the rest is history. But when I started teaching accounting at Laurel Ridge, I realized that was not everybody's path.
Right.
And I realized, too, that, and I try to bring it to my students as a teacher, is that people don't understand, like, the power that comes when you understand accounting or whatever trade that you're doing. Like, I couldn't imagine being in charge of electricity. Like, that to me seems absolutely overwhelming, but so needed. So what do you think, how do you help your students, or do you call them students? What do you, members, like, what is your participants?
They're scholars, I would guess.
Scholars,
Yes.
Okay. How do you help your scholars find their calling?
We do several different things with them. First of all, we ask a tremendous amount of questions, not only of them, but of their families. Because the family is a critical piece. If the family is already dependent on them working 30 hours a week, making X number of dollars, then it's really up to us to explain how they can continue to work and still do a career path, as an example. So we find a lot about what are their interests and what are they doing. We actually use, I call it a formula. It's not exactly a formula, but I'll call it that. We ask questions like, what do other people say that you're good at? What do you love to do? What is something that you follow on social media? All of those things.
Okay.
Try to help them determine what is the best career path for them. But we look holistically, because for us, what we've learned is if the parents are on board, we've got it. We're golden. And if they're not, there's a problem.
And how many scholars do you support at one time?
Well, that's a great question. We have over 500 people that we have engaged with in the program so far.
Okay.
Yes. And we are expanding. We actually have some open positions if you go to our website, and we're expanding because we are about to support even more kids. So bring them one, bring them all, I would say. I would say for now.
Yeah, we have pretty much an open enrollment approach. Our goal is to have, within 5 years, we're growing about 50% a year, and we would like to keep that ratio. And our goal is to have 500 kids in the program by the end of the 5 years. Now, we have other, actually higher goals internally, but we think if we could get 500 kids, if we could touch 500 kids in the program, that will probably mean that we'll have more like 2,000 to 2,500 kids that we will have helped develop a plan and a direction in terms of working with their family and them. But it's very open-ended, and we can basically grow as rapidly, frankly, as we can grow our support and our staff, building our team. We're kind of like some of the other businesses we're trying to partner with and are partnering with, where we're constrained by being able to recruit. We have a very intentional culture, and we're very focused on the right kind of folks on our team. Rachel mentioned most of our folks are bilingual, which is important for relating to the families. If you can't relate to the families and they're not aligned with the student, a high percentage we would lose if we didn't engage the family, because the work activity, which is really important to bring income to the family, will conflict with the educational plan, and unfortunately the family has to vote for the keeping food on the table every day.
Right.
And that's what disrupts a high percentage of young low-income kids from reaching their goal.
And I want to focus on kind of what you said earlier in that statement, which is you can grow as fast as you can find staff, but also support.
Right.
So our individual so what does your support look like? Is it grants? Is it individual donors? Or is it a mixture of everything?
It's really a mixture of everything. So we do have some grants that we have received. We have individual donors. As a matter of fact, I'm leaving here today to meet with a foundation as well. So we have all three of those things. So there's various ways that we raise funding for the organization. You know, one of the things that we try to do, and I use the tagline all the time, we help people see past the front of the restaurant. And let me explain to you what that means. I was meeting with somebody, and she was relaying to me a conversation that she had with her mom. And she said, "Mom, why did you never encourage me to go to college?" And her mom said, "Because I was working at the back of the restaurant washing dishes, making a wage, and you were working at the front of the restaurant, and you were a waitress. And as a waitress, you can make more money than me. And so I couldn't see past the front of the restaurant." And what we do at Opportunity Scholars is we help people see past the front of the restaurant. And so when we talk to people about giving, when we share that that's what we are doing, we are really blessed that so many people are interested in giving. And we continue to, obviously, we're a nonprofit, so we continue to need donations, but that's what we do.
I would like to thank Athletes Charitable for sponsoring today's Inspired Changemakers podcast. Athletes Charitable offers a concierge membership service that provides the tools and resources to build a legacy through service. Our athlete-led team has the first-hand experience and expertise to provide hands-on support that simplifies the entire process for athletes and entertainers to reach their social entrepreneurship goals and create lasting impact in their communities. To learn more, check out the link in the bio.
And so how can an individual donor help? What is the best way is it to go to your website? How can they help you?
Yes, it is. The best way is to go to our website.
Okay.
And I know that you'll put a link up to our website at the bottom, but the best way is to go to our website. There is a donate now button there, and so we would love to do that. But in addition to that, if you're someone who really wants to give back to a kid, if you'd like to be a mentor to a child, that would be important. And the third thing that we really haven't talked about much, but is very important for us, is businesses. Businesses are a key part of our organization. And so if you're a business who needs lots of electricians or plumbers or accountants, we would love to partner with you, because what we find is that we are very successful at, once we find a kid and enroll them in the program, once we find that scholar, getting them out the other end, making sure that they're not only an employee but a great employee. And so we would love to be able to partner with more businesses, which frankly may be a way that we can help with funding, because they can use us not only as a recruiting avenue, but could use us as a recruiting avenue.
One of the things that most of the low and middle income families have no knowledge of is that there are many employers that Rachel's talking about who will give the young person a job, but they'll also train them. They'll either pay the freight for them to be in an apprenticeship program, or they'll just give them the necessary training for a skilled position. And we have one partner organization that has an internal training program. The young person starts making $18 an hour working in the warehouse,
Right.
while they train to be a manufacturing technician, and their $18 goes to $28.50 an hour when they finish the training program, and they start doing the. So in one fell swoop, within about a year, and they're into, at least they've passed the hurdle. Now there's a lot of upside from there to the job that they're in, and that's really the other thing we look for. Is we want to pay more than $50 to start, but we really want to put them in careers, not just jobs, and where they can grow into higher levels. And if you become an electrician or a plumber, someday you may have a small and soon to be large plumbing business, electrician business.
Yeah.
So I think really underscoring what Rachel said, the partnerships with employers is a critical piece. A lot of employers say that's a great deal for us because we're looking for kids that somebody knows, that they know what it means to be responsible, these life success skills we talk about, of going to work, working hard, making friends, dressing properly, all those seemingly fundamental things that perhaps in my case my parents taught me, sort of say beat into me, but they taught me. And but many kids don't have anyone to give them those tips and that coaching, and so they know they're getting good workers with a future. And so hopefully it's symbiotic. It's a very good opportunity for them as well as, but it's essential for us.
So then my question is, there soft skills that you look for in your scholars? Like, do they have to have a certain type of attitude? Is it not just like that they could do the skill? Do you also look for some other softer things to be part of your program?
It's wonderful if we find them and they already have those soft skills. If not, we'll work with them on those soft skills. We require things like a 2.0 GPA. A lot of programs like ours, they are looking for the top tier student, and we require them to have at least a 2.0 GPA. Now, if they want to be a nurse, it's going to be hard to get into nursing school if you have a 2.0. However, we can help them try to raise their GPA as well.
Okay.
When we find them.
Okay.
So we work on not only the nuts and bolts of the things that they have to have like GPA, but we do work with them mightily to make sure that they are workforce ready. So there's not something, so to speak, that we just absolutely require when it comes to soft skills, other than they have to agree that they are going to try their best, that they are going to communicate with us regularly. Those are things that they absolutely have to agree to, and we actually have them agree to those through some documentation before they sign up for the program. And then we'll really help to enhance those as they go into the program.
Yeah.
Rachel's touching on something that's really a core differentiator for Opportunity Scholars. There are many organizations who are looking for the high-performing student who's got a 3.5, 3.9, and they're looking to give them a scholarship, and that's a wonderful thing. We often will help kids connect with universities or other places that will do that. The problem is it's 10% or less of the low and middle income population that are that kind of student. They're the regular vast majority of students who are 2.5, 2.7, 3.0, and frankly, no one's going to give them a scholarship. They don't have anybody who's looking to help them build a future. And they're our sweet spot. That's who we want to help. Now, we'll help the great performing kid connect, and that's a blessing.
Yeah.
But for the kid that has no other chance, there's no other shot in life other than that landscaping job, and they're a 2.5, they're a good kid. They're a good kid, probably 2.5, and they were working 30, 40 hours a week. So that we think is a hardworking, good kid. That's our sweet spot.
And how do you find the kids? Are you in high schools? Like, what is the way that you really connect to them?
We do. We find them in high schools. We have agreements with several of the area schools once we find them there. We also can find them in businesses. We find them in churches. We find them in boys and girls clubs. We'd also, we would be open to find them in businesses and things like that. We also may find them actually after they are in college.
And what areas do you serve currently?
We serve Frederick County. In big picture, we serve the Shenandoah Valley and Northern Virginia.
Okay.
So we have Frederick County, Clark County, Winchester City, Loudoun County, and about to expand beyond there as well.
Yeah. Awesome. And how many employees do you guys have?
We have 5 employees today.
Oh, wow. And
Yes.
when did you guys officially start?
We started in 2019. Well, Knox founded it in 2019, but as we all know, in 2020...
Did something happen in 2020 that I'm not aware? Yeah, okay.
Something happened with school systems, et cetera, in 2020. So, but Knox founded it in 2019.
Yeah, it legally incorporated the fourth quarter of 19, but with the pandemic, we really ended up essentially waiting until 21 to launch the organization. So we've really been in operation for about 3 years, and as I mentioned earlier, we're closing in on 150 students. So we've been growing rapidly during that time, and we want to grow into the rest of Northern Virginia. And expansion is, again, we work primarily connected to Title I schools and community colleges. They are really our education partners. And
I know I get emails about you guys all the time at Laurel Ridge.
and they've been a wonderful partner. Let me say, Laurel Ridge, there's nothing we could have asked. Their team has just been outstanding. Their heart and their head are just so aligned with what we're all trying to do. We are a shared mission. There's no question.
And so what do you really think that you guys are going to be able to accomplish 5 years from now for the communities that you're talking about?
Well, I think we're going to go beyond those communities. As a matter of fact, I know we're going to go beyond those communities. We just signed an agreement with the entire Virginia Community College system. So Dr. Doré is their chancellor.
Yeah.
And we just had the honor of signing a system-wide agreement, which means that we can go into all of the 23 community colleges and have conversations with them about Opportunity Scholars. So we're really excited about that. So I see us all over the state of Virginia. We'll have to be strategic about how quickly that we can grow. But I do see us certainly in the Northern Virginia area, also likely in the Tidewater area. And let us not forget that Atlanta keeps calling as well, wanting us to come there. So we may be beyond that. But as far as we can see right now, we will have more students in the state of Virginia, and we will also grow our footprint in the state of Virginia. And Knox had mentioned some numbers for us. And so we are thinking we'll have numbers in the thousands by then.
So, but I want to actually get down to the impact.
Sure.
Not I love the amount of students, but what does it do to a community when you have more skilled laborers?
When you, in many respects, a community today, its primary resource in the ability to either maintain its businesses or to attract new businesses is almost entirely driven by whether it has a workforce that business requires.
Right.
When at the very highest end, the discussions when Amazon made the decision to come to Northern Virginia, their number one criteria was, can we get the highly skilled people that we need? When a manufacturer or a services business or really anyone says, well, should we expand in this area? Should we go to particularly areas, communities that have not had a lot of economic development? So if we really want to see that development, the number one strategy is to create a workforce that will then attract and keep employers. We're losing employers who can't get the workforce in some parts of the Commonwealth. And so there's really no more valuable lever. It's more powerful than tax incentives, more powerful than zoning, more powerful than really any other factor. The research is clear. Workforce is the gold nugget for communities to build their tax base, which then drives the quality of their schools, drives their everything from their transportation and human services infrastructure, helps the hospitals and health systems stay afloat. There's nothing that building that economic tax base. The economic tax base is all driven by workforce. So we really believe that the impact's very broad, but it's quite specific, and in terms of the way it helps not just the people in the program, but when it rejuvenates or sustains the entire community. Everybody that needs a hospital, everybody who's going to send their kids to school, everybody who will use the parks or the transportation system or the homeless services, that's going to lift all those boats. And so perhaps we think too highly of what we're doing, but I think the research supports that it's for many communities, it is the heart of their growth and development and the quality of life for their citizens.
Mm-hmm. There is something to be said about solving versus serving in the nonprofit space. And I don't know if you guys have talked about that a lot. I've talked about it a lot on this podcast. Are we solving a problem? Are we serving a problem? And the fact that you're teaching somebody how to fish rather than just providing a fish,
right?
You're changing the community. And that's the impact that I want listeners to totally understand when they walk away from here, is that you're giving people hope and a way to actually get out of a situation and be really a contributing member, right? To their community, because it is, and it's small businesses too. They're more likely to go to the local taco stand, or do you know what I mean? The Thai pho place, whatever you're into, right? Like, your burger joint, right? you're really supporting the community. And if you had to, because we're going to have to end this shortly, but if you had to say that you have one hope for your scholars, what would it be?
My hope would be that they are able to change their life for the better economically, that they can move up. If you remember in school, Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
Yep.
that they can move up Maslow's hierarchy of needs and not have to worry about the bottom tier of food, shelter, clothing, and that they can move up so many times that they're actually at the very top of self-actualization, and they can live a very different life than what they have today. That is my dream for them.
I would simply add to that, and when that happens for the individual, that their kids and their kids' kids are, and their kids' kids' kids are now living at that level and that quality of life that is the American dream, and this is something that will live for generations, and really change, not just change lives, but I love the way you talked about it. It doesn't just change lives, it's going to change communities, and entire communities are going to see a different future than they would otherwise have had.
No, well, thank you guys so much for coming on my podcast today.
Thank you.
I definitely defined both of you as an inspired change maker, and thank you guys so much for what you guys give back. And really, Knox, I'll say this, finding your new passion after one passion, right? You could have been like, no, I'm done, guys. Like, I'm going to go retire. I'm just going to go live a great... And the fact that you really took on something on shows absolutely that it is never, ever, ever too late to find your passion and really create something positive. And so thank you guys for coming on and everything that you do.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
thank you, Jay, for having us. Wonderful time.
Thanks. Find Inspired Changemakers on Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn, and comment on all the awesome things you are doing to make this world a better place. Don't forget to subscribe.